So I was talking a bit when I spoke on the phone about your position in the boat and balancing the boat. Now, obviously, there should be two of us in the boat, missing a front person. But let's imagine I'm the rear paddler. Now, up to you how you sit. I tend to kneel in the boat. You guys have got a well padded boat by the looks of things, so that's fantastic. So let's say I'm kneeling, and let's say I'm paddling on the left hand side, okay? If that was the case, what I would want to do, I would want to shuffle myself over to that side of the boat, okay? The closer I am to that side of the boat, the easier it is to get my hands, one hand on top of the other, okay? So what we're looking for is those stacked hands so that we can have a vertical, a bit hard to demonstrate here, a vertical paddle stroke, okay? So you want to have your hands over the paddle, that's sort of vertical. If the paddle is vertical, that means you're paddling that lovely straight line down here. If the paddle is not vertical, you're trying to paddle forwards and you end up with this kind of sweep. Instead of a nice straight push, you end up with a wide sweep. And that is going to steer the boat. So if I do a big sort of forwards paddle with an angled paddle, okay, with any slight angle on it, it's going to end up being a bit more of a sweep. And that is going to push the boat off center, okay? So for forwards paddling, we want to have nice stacked hands over the paddle. So our top hand should be over our lower hand to start with, and over the water, ideally, okay? Now if I'm sat right in the middle of the boat, to get my top hand over, I've got to lean, okay? And that's not ideal. We don't want to be leaning or sort of crushing one side of our body for a long time, okay? You're going to be a long journey, you want to save all that energy. So, a couple of things. You can twist to face the side of the boat you're paddling on, and you can shuffle closer to the gunnel, okay? My hip would actually, if I was in a pairs, if I was tandem, I would actually have my hip right up close to the gunnel. And that way, my hands naturally, just because I'm facing this way, if I put my hands in front of me, my top hand is now over the water, okay? If I'm facing forward with my hands in front, it's nowhere near. So just by turning my body, my hands end up over the water. So I don't have to twist to get them in that position. Because I don't have to twist, when I do twist, I've got a much bigger range of motion. If I'm sat here and I'm twisting, I can twist to about there, okay? If I'm already turning my body, when I actually put the twist into the paddle stroke, I can paddle and actually end up with my shoulders facing this direction rather than over here at the end of the twist, okay? So we want to be turning into our paddle stroke, especially if we're doing steering. So we actually want to be turning our body with that paddle, okay? So we're facing the side that we're paddling on, all right? Obviously, over a long distance, you might find kneeling a bit uncomfortable, so you may want to go for a sort of half kneel, half sit. You may want to actually go a bit cross-legged or whatever it is, whatever's comfy. You may even end up like this, I don't know. But the point is, the more you can turn your body to the side that you're paddling on, and the closer you can get to the gunnel, the better. Now obviously it's a tandem, so your paddle partner is going to be doing the opposite on their side. So you'll have one over to the right and one over to the left. That might be dictated by the type of seat you have. You might have a shaped seat, or you might not have the webbing all the way. I think you can see my front seat, that's got webbing in the centre. It might be quite uncomfy sat on the very edge. So as long as you're sat as far to the side you're paddling as you can, that is going to make a difference, okay? What will also make a big difference is the trim of your boat. I'll try and explain this with a different video, but depending where you sit has a big impact on how the boat travels in the water. If you, obviously as a tandem, you're not going to be able to move your sitting position too much. You're both going to be on your seats unless one of you decides to shuffle round. But your kit and equipment, you can move that around. Generally, 80% of the time, you're going to want to have the front of the boat slightly higher than the back of the boat. So you can do that by having more kit stored towards the back. But if it's really windy head on, you might want to pin the front of the boat down a bit more. So you might want to slide some kit forward. That way, you'll have the front of the boat a bit lower and the wind won't be able to blow it around as much. If you imagine having everything at the back and the front of the boat sitting higher, it's a bit like a sail. The wind will blow the front of the boat around. So you might want to get some more weight forward if you've got really strong headwinds, just to pin the front down. But you know, when you practice runs, play around with it and see what works for you guys. Obviously with the front pinned down, you're going to find steering a bit harder in calmer water. So you're going to want to play around with calm water, with moving water, with strong headwinds or tailwinds. You're going to sort of want to mix things around a little bit and see what works best for you. But I would say the most important thing for now in terms of getting your paddle efficiency sorted is looking at where you guys are sitting. So not just one in front of the other, actually have yourselves offset, okay? So whether you're on the left hand side of the boat, turn to face that way, knees facing that direction, hands over the water, okay, or on the other side of the boat, okay? Obviously, if you're on your own and you're sat on this side, the boat's going to heel over. But you guys are in tandem, so you won't have to worry about that. With one either side, it will balance out quite nicely. Something else I noticed on your video, something else I think will make a big difference to you guys, is paddling in time. A bit hard to demonstrate here, but just putting in a paddle motion, you can see the boat is starting to, it moves with a paddle motion, okay? It actually sort of twists and heels a little bit. If you guys are in tandem, if you've got one person putting in a paddle stroke and then the other one isn't paddling in time, the boat is kind of twisting one way and then twisting the other. And that's going to have a sort of shimming effect on the water. I don't know if that's a correct canoeing term or not. But that is all going to impact your efficiency long term. So if you can paddle in time, that will make it much easier. In terms of paddling in time, generally it's the person at the back, so the stern paddler, is going to paddle in time with the front, purely because the person at the front can't see what's going on behind them. Obviously as a pair you'll figure this thing out and you'll figure out your best rhythm, but remembering the person at the back is paddling and then doing the odd steering stroke. So the person at the front might want to paddle and then do a sort of half-second rest just in between each paddle stroke. And that gives the person at the back just that little bit of time to get that steering stroke in and then get their next stroke in. So whoever's at the front, just think about, instead of just ploughing on doing forward stroke after forward stroke, you might want to add a little sort of pause in between those forward strokes, just to allow the stern paddler to get that steering stroke in and then get their next stroke in time with yours. If they're constantly trying to catch up, you'll always be out of time, and that's going to make the boat wobble and shimmy, and that's going to affect your performance over a long distance, okay? So it's a marathon, not a sprint. All those little things add up, whether it's positioning the boat, whether it's being in time, whether it's getting your hands vertical or not, keeping an eye on the front of the boat. All these things add up over a long distance. Any little zigzag or wobble in the boat once or twice isn't going to make a big difference, but when it's thousands of times over and over again over a whole day and the next day and the next day, that all adds up to time and distance added on, and that's going to sort of impact your enjoyment of your journey. You want to make sure you're as smooth and efficient as possible. So yeah, all these things, bear in mind, they are just tips from my experience. I certainly wouldn't ever consider myself an expert, but they're little tips based on what I've done on journeys I've done in the past, and I've found they've definitely helped me and the people I've taught. So have a go with them, find a balance between what you guys have figured out already, what I've taught you, and what other people will tell you as well, and find what works for you. You'll definitely get someone along the way who will say, oh, don't do this, do that, or don't do that, do this. If it doesn't work for you, don't bother. Do what works for you, do what feels comfortable, and just, yeah, figure out your own way along the way. Okay, hope that's helpful. Right.